So now's a good time, I guess, to call to order our annual PPX annual general meeting. Hi, my name's Katie Brown. I'm the president of PPX. Super pleased to be here today to provide some information about how what PPX has been up to the last couple of years and where we're heading in the next year. So this webinar is being broadcast from Ottawa. Our last AGM was in 2019 in April. So we're covering 2 years of performance in this AGM meeting. So looking at our agenda, if my slide piece will work here. Great. So our agenda today, first is the welcome. We're living in unprecedented times, as everybody knows, and is probably getting quite fatigued hearing that statement. But, you know, no exception for PPX as well. Being, you know, a provider of expertise and advice and learning and bringing people together to share knowledge, you know, this has been very challenging in a time of needing to socially distance. And so, you know, PPX has been working real hard the last year to identify those impacts, think about how we can pivot and start providing more virtual online offerings. And one thing that keeps coming up is actually the opportunity that we have in this environment. PPX has been aiming to broaden our membership base and diversity and include, you know, domestic and international speakers and information. And so moving to a virtual environment gives us these opportunities. And so this has been a big focus of the discussions that we've had. First, I do want to thank our full PPX board and Willow Group for all of the efforts this year, the commitment, the dedication. Very lucky we have an exceptional board of directors that comes from all different backgrounds. We have so much diverse experience between all of us. And so that really shows in everything that we do. And I want to thank them all for all their efforts this year. Mention that we will have Q&As at the end of our presentation. But if you do have questions along the way, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section in Zoom, and we will address them as we go along. So I will, at this point, this is our agenda. We're going to cover approval of our last meetings, go through some committee reports, and then a view of looking ahead. And then we have other business questions and adjournment. So I will put a motion forward to approve this agenda. If I could get a seconder.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, so approval of our April 24, 2019 AGM minutes. We went through these minutes. It was the first time we did a webinar for the AGM. It went quite well. And I've read through them myself. So, and I think most of us have. So I will put a motion forward to approve the previous AGM minutes and seeking a seconder on that.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Art. You can see those minutes available on our website, ppx.ca, if you're interested in reading more. So to move into our technology reports, the first one up is Communications Engagement and Technology Committee, and I will pass to Joe Farragon for this report.
Hello, everybody. So happy to report on sort of the new committee here. In terms of completed items, we have two. We actually have the final terms of reference for the committee itself, and we've actually created a plan for the committee in terms of key deliverables and objectives and key messages, and that's evergreen. As we move forward and progress and complete other items, we'll constantly review and update the plan as a committee, and then bring it to the actual PPX Board of Directors for approval on any significant changes as we move forward. Things that are in progress. We've got a few items. We're currently validating PPX's current branding items. I make sure we kind of have, same colors and branding across the board. As well, we're currently analyzing current membership, partnerships, and collaborations, and with the aim of identifying potential gaps or opportunities. As well, we're examining the current website and social media presence. And last, as activities are planned and implemented, ensuring that there is a sort of a communications, engagement, technology consideration as part of the activity planning. In terms of membership, from understanding it since the symposium 2019, it's grown 45%. We're looking at about 1,269 members currently. There, I'm not going to read the stats. There is the breakdown. The majority of it is in Canada, Ottawa-centric, and as well as, about 3/4 of it is at the federal level. Finally, membership strategy will be considered at the annual strategic planning session in terms of how do we diversify the membership and expand beyond the Ottawa-centric and federal-centric perspective. Katie, I believe that's it in terms of sort of the high-level perspective on the Communications Engagement Technology Committee and its deliverables.
Katie, your mic is off.
I need that T-shirt that says you're on mute, right? This is like 2020 problems. Okay, so thanks for that, Eric. I just was saying that it's worthwhile noting that in the last year, we consolidated our previous membership committee with our tech committee to identify, and as you said, Joe, the terms of reference and everything else that we've built on this. But I think that move to bringing these pieces together is going to provide a new perspective for us moving forward about who we're our audience and how we're reaching that. So thanks for all your work on that. Okay, the next one is a rundown on the 2019 symposium. So I had the pleasure to chair that symposium. We had over 280 participants. If I recall, it was one of the biggest, if not the biggest ever. We had to expand one of the rooms. So it was a great success for us. Overall, we had a profit of $42,000 from that. But really it was the ratings and the feedback that we received from participants. You could really see that this annual event is becoming seen as a sought after event for people in the various planning and performance disciplines. We had the 5 pre-symposium training courses. Again, kudos to all the folks who do those training courses. They're very intensive, lots of materials, and it is quite an effort. So congrats to them for all of that. We did have an excellent roster of keynote speakers. We had just a couple to mention. Ray Zahab, our inspirational speaker, a fellow from Chelsea who's a marathon, more than a marathon runner. That's what he does for a living, is he runs. But he was really, really cool. We had Matthew Mendelson from the Privy Council office at the time. We had a really cool panel of UN presenters as well, showing us work that they're doing in the performance area. So it was quite a success. And for our 2020 symposium, I'll hand it over to the 2020 chair, Christine Minas, to speak to that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Minas. I'm a member of the board. So we had a great program set for 2020. However, due to COVID, we were unable to continue with that symposium. But we are getting excited about planning for the 2021 symposium, which will be held in May. It will be a virtual conference. And we do have some wonderful speakers lined up. If you have any ideas or suggestions that you'd like to see reflected in the program, please feel free to contact me. And also we will be providing an update on the KUT rating tool and also a special project that PPX has underway. So you will be receiving more information on that in the coming weeks, and we hope you're able to participate. Thank you.
Let's go over to Art for collaborative agreements.
Hi, everybody. It's my name is Art Stewart. I want to just tell you briefly about some of the things that PPX has been doing in order to promote greater diversity in our outreach with other organizations and their members to accomplish mutual goals, mutual interests over the past while. This is not really new for PPX. When PPX got created, there was always that kind of an element. But I guess what I will say is that more recently, in the past couple of years, we've been able to put a bit more effort into trying to see what we can do to concretely move the yardsticks on this kind of goal. So more recently, what we've done is, and I'm really going to the last bullet on the slide, we've actually have had agreements with organizations like the Financial Management Institute of Canada, EPAC, the Ethical Practitioners Group, and a little bit of work that has been done on the informal level with the Canadian Evaluation Society. More recently still, we have moved into, I think, an interesting and somewhat new era in terms of our relationship with the Canadian Evaluation Society and the NCC chapter. And we are going to be doing common activities. In fact, very recently in November, there was a webinar that was held on the KUT that Christine has just mentioned, and it seemed to have been pretty successful. More of these kinds of things are being planned. And the other thing I would say is that we are actually doing something that's kind of unique in that we actually have a representative from the CES NCC board. That's Ashwin Hassan, who's on the line, I think. And we have a representative, and that's Steve Montague, representing PPX on the CES NCC board. And I want to express my thanks to both of them for the efforts that they're putting in to support this arrangement. And I'm hopeful that this is going to be one of the best kind of, I guess, collaborative agreement that we can demonstrate that it actually is producing results, that is increasing interest, increasing membership, creating activities that we can support and agree upon. Also more recently, we've entered into some discussions, and here I want to thank Basil Orsini, my colleague on the board, for really kickstarting this stuff with organizations like IOCOM, the International Organization for Collaboration and Outcome Management. And I think we're close to having an agreement signed with them where we'll support each other's activities, perhaps a little bit less formal, more a bit of a go slower and see what we can do. But one of the particular aspects that I think that will be of interest to PPX members and PPX directors is that the IOCOM publishes an international journal. It's in a growth mode in terms of finding its way on true outcome management and measurement, but nonetheless, it probably or could be an opportunity for PPX to start to get into producing and publishing content in this territory. And again, could be something of promise that will be of interest to PPX members. Additionally, Basil and I have had some preliminary discussions with the Institute of Internal Auditors in Canada. And that one, we're going to probably start with some concrete activities, do some cross promotion in areas of mutual interests. And again, PPX members can look forward to watching for those kinds of things over the next little while. Lastly, I want to say is that we want to also make sure that we sustain the important relationships that we have with some of our existing organizations. And as I mentioned, with FMI, EPAC, and others, including IPAC. And I forgot one when I was putting this slide together, and that's the Canadian Audit and Accountability Foundation. to also to see what we can do to help each other out and to, again, create concrete activities that will be of interest to our membership. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Art, we can hand it to Nadine, please, to cover learning events.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you, Katie. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the learning events, which happen to all be connected with the community of practice. So I'm Nadine Sear. I'm actually the lead for the community of practice, and I've been helping out on learning events. In the spring of 2018 and 2019, we held 2 different events specifically related to performance measurement and evaluation within science-based departments. The themes are very broad, and therefore they're open to all communities to identify areas that we could find improvement that align with the policies and the changes that are being imposed on many departments from the central agencies. So we had 2 events in the spring of 2018 and one in spring of 2018, one in spring of 2019. The evaluations is that have shown that participants have found them to be very good events, and they've found them to be informative and useful. It was decided due to our financial situation that we did not need to recoup full costs. So we were able to offer the sessions at a lower cost, which allowed a lot more people to participate, and it was a better opportunity for interaction and networking. As a group, we are looking at potential opportunities for the future and taking our guidance from new policies that are coming down the pipeline or new working groups from central agencies to try and figure out where PPX could position to help the community in integrating some of the ideas around policies, but also the practical use of tools and information and knowledge across departments. And so we have a number of things that have been identified, but we will be looking for other ideas from the community as we move forward into 2021. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Nadine. So that, moving into special initiatives, so that you covered pretty much the community's practice, I believe. Yes. So we have 2.5 other special initiatives to discuss. First one being the knowledge uptake and use tool. I'll hand it over to Steve.
Thanks very much. And somehow I ended up with two slides on this, but we'll go real quick. So we've been doing for the last 3-4 years. In fact, the knowledge uptake and use tool, we had a major event a couple of weeks ago, in fact, it turns out. But in 2019, we had, of course, the PPX presentation. It was well received. We had a scoping study published in a peer-reviewed journal. We have been funding this effort in a fairly small way for 3 years, as I would point out. I will also point out that I'm speaking essentially to the board members because that's who I count in participating today. So I'm not going to get into a big spiel about it. The November 25th session was well received in the sense of 240 plus people registered, 160 attended. It's about 64%. That's actually pretty good in terms of free events. I can just go quickly to the next slide, which I think we have somehow continued. These are the comments we've received so far, but which have all been, frankly, without variance positive, which is great. We had, I don't have the breakdown in front of me for it, but of the 160, we had people from coast to coast. We had Americans, we had some Brits, and we had people at all levels, from director general level right to working level and to students. So that was very, very encouraging. The next steps are that we want to build on this community of practice. We think it links to others, like the science and tech community of practice, and to others. We want to create sort of more interest and demand for the spring session. So we very much look forward to continuing with a panel that will actually feature other examples, which is what people are really looking for. And we also think we learned some things about webinars that may serve us well going forward. And for more, we did get a special site created that is ungated, so anyone can visit it whether they've been to the event or not. And that's the link on this slide. So that's enough for the cute for now. Thank you.
So much, Steve. And kudos to you for all the pushing you've done on this initiative in particular. It's definitely popular for PPX in the community. So thanks so much for all you do. Moving on to academic collaboration, I'll hand it over to Eric.
Thank you, Katie. I'm Eric Champagne. I'm the responsible for the academic collaboration at PPX. In 2019 and 20, we had three university partners, University of Ottawa, University of Carleton, and ENAP, with a funding of $15,000 that were allocated mostly for supporting research that are highly relevant with the work of PPX. So we were able to support three students that are doing either PhD, doctoral work, or master degree students who are doing thesis and research work in the area of planning and performance. So we had Mr. Sheikh Alassane Traoré, who's a PhD student in public administration, for research on a framework for monitoring and evaluating the performance of public-private partnerships in infrastructure projects. Mrs. Ula Abu Rashed, a master degree student at U of Ottawa, for research on new structures and tools to communicate and report government performance. Monsieur Jean-François Lévesque, a PhD student at ENAP, for research on thematic analysis of federal government evaluation reports, and Mr. Ian Brown, a PhD student at University of Carleton, for research on ethics using program evaluation as a research method. So we, as part of this collaboration, we have some resources dedicated to organize some learning events or conferences. So we had the chance to organize one during that period. We would have liked to organize more because of the pandemic, it wasn't possible, but we organized one event on risk management and decision making, and the conference was held on November 25th, 2019 at the University of Ottawa, featuring Marc Morin, Chief Risk Officer, and Olivier Chouanière, Director of Performance and Risk Management at ICED. In 2020 and 21, as you may know, Isabelle Bourgeois has moved to the University of Ottawa, and we couldn't find someone at ENAP who was really focusing on their work. So no scholars available at the Gatineau campus because we wanted to keep it a bit in a regional basis. So we have an agreement this year with University of Carleton. There's a little mistake in the slide there, but this is the University of Carleton and U Ottawa. And with these two universities, we're gonna do a bit of the same process. We would like to feature their work in our next symposium, and to feature their work maybe in another format, maybe some summaries of their work eventually, or maybe to organize a little panel session online and invite them to present their work. That's the idea also. The second part of the funding is not only to fund them to support their work, research work, but it's also to feature their work eventually. So we're gonna try to do it in 2020 and 21. So more to come. Thank you very much.
See, Eric, and all the work that you do in the academic. That's super exciting stuff for PPX. We'll go to Tom, our fearless treasurer, for the treasurer's report.
Thanks very much, Katie. It's a pretty brief report. As you all know, and based on what you've heard from the previous presenters, as we might expect, the financial results are mixed. So we had, of course, a successful 23rd annual symposium, which added to the organization's profits by $42,000. However, the cancellation of the 2020 symposium because of the pandemic resulted in a loss of almost the same amount, $40,000. So I think the main point to be made that I can make as treasurer in terms of our financial position is that we are well positioned. In other words, the reason for saying that is because we have a surplus of $247,000 from previous years. Now, before I go any further, the financials are available, the financial statements, which have been reviewed by an outside auditor. These are available on the website, so that you can peruse those at your leisure. I won't actually take you through the details of that. A couple of other points. We changed the fee structure with a different agreement with the Willow organization in 2018. So far this has worked well. As a matter of fact, the actual fees in 2019 charged by Willow decreased by 9% from the previous year. The current year, 2020, is 2019-2020, is not comparable because of the pandemic. Also have to mention that this agreement expires, the agreement with Willow expires on June 30th, 2021. And so we will be reviewing it before then. I might also mention that we've certainly had some success in terms of financial management. There have been a number of reforms in accounting, budgeting, and reporting. And certainly with the assistance of the Willow staff, and in particular the Vice President Finance of Willow, we have had the first full year of implementation, 2019-2020, which showed a low variance of actual results over the budget. And the board has undertaken significant projects. These have been mentioned by in the previous parts of the presentation. And this has been done securing the knowledge of a healthy financial position. Now, in terms of the role of the treasurer nominally heads up the committee, a committee of his own. However, the way it actually works is that key financial decision-making is through the board members who chair the active committees. And the treasurer contributes, I think, in a significant way by serving both on the executive committee and on the symposium planning committee. Now, just to conclude, there were two motions. The first is to approve the financial statements as presented. So do I have a seconder for that motion?
I'm happy to second it.
Okay. And then the second motion is to approve Christian Asselin, Chartered Professional Accountant, as the auditing firm for the fiscal year. So do I have a seconder for that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. And that's it for me.
Do we vote on that?
Yeah, well, yes, we have to vote on each motion. That's the end of my presentation, but yes, we have to vote on each motion.
Thank you so much, Tom. Recognition that you have been the treasurer for as long as I've been on this board, and I think before as well. It's not a thankless job, because I thank you very much for all of your continued efforts and keeping things in line and providing sage advice along the way. So I know it's much appreciated, the role that you play.
Thank you very much.
So if I'm looking at now our 2021 priorities, looking out in the last year.
Katie, don't we have to do the motions on those, approve those? Tom's two motions.
Sorry, I didn't realize. Yeah.
Hi, Katie, Sarah here. What we typically do, because it's by webinar, if there are any dissenters, they can either put a message in the chat or the Q&A.
Oh, okay. So if there's anybody opposed to the motion to approve the financial statements, please put a note in the Q&A, I guess it is, or in the chat. Okay, so that's approval, I would say. And the second is to, on the motion to approve Christian Asselin as the auditing firm. If there are any objections at this time, please put them in the Q&A chat box. Great. Okay, so I think both of those have now been approved. Thanks for that, guys. I wasn't sure of the final. Okay, so looking at our 2021 priorities, in the last year and a half, PPX revamped and revised our strategic plan. So we've finalized pretty much. I think it still needs an absolute final approval, but it does reflect new board members, an updated SWOT analysis, and pulling together sort of a plan on the page that outlines our vision and our mandate, and really pulled together 4 specific goals that we have. Now, our strategic plan is a 3-year outlook, and we plan to evergreen that looking forward. But these goals really are consistent with PPX's approach and raison d'etre. And so, but these goals are really to help us as a team and a board to create focus in the right areas. So the first one is around growing our membership and expanding the diversity of our community. This is absolutely paramount to being able to facilitate sharing knowledge in the community and creating knowledge. So we want to make sure that we're getting, we have a lot of federal public servants, and they are the core audience that we have. But we're also finding that expanding that reach internationally and into municipal and provincial governments across Canada and other countries is really adding value in sharing that knowledge. So that is a key goal we have, and we want to continue on that path. In that vein, we've got things like building on the current partnership with the Canadian Evaluation Society and the other partnership work that Art spoke to earlier. So reviewing those opportunities for other agreements and expanding the communities there. We want to be careful also that we're taking the time to really foster those partnerships that we have built and learn from those experiences. Another way that's not necessarily on this slide is in all of our offerings, we try to make sure that we've got representation from around the world. Our symposium has speakers from across Canada at all levels of government and also internationally. The second key goal we have is to enhance our core content and learning offerings to align with current and emerging needs with a focus on relevance, timeliness, and quality. So there's a lot in this statement, but it's really trying to capture the essence of what we're offering from that learning side and learning events and symposium. So for the next year, we have the, responding to the new realities of our current pandemic environment and pivoting heavily to a virtual learning event offering and a virtual symposium 2021. This isn't going to be temporary. As I mentioned in the opening, we have the opportunity right now to really reach a broader section of our community. And so we're going to take this opportunity to learn ourselves how to offer those virtual event offerings in a very quality manner. We thank Willow for all the work that they've been doing as well in this area. And so, we do hope to have in-person offerings again in the future when public health states that is appropriate. But in the meantime, we're going to focus on building out our virtual offerings, which very likely will continue in some part in the future as well. As a third goal, we have supporting research and development, and this is around advancing the innovative thinking. So our strategic initiatives that you heard of already are academic collaborations, the CUTE tool, the communities of practice. This is all about how we can support advancing knowledge. And thankfully, as Tom said, we're in a financially enviable position right now. So we are able to make those investments in these initiatives that can help with that research and development. Our fourth and final priority is about ourselves and looking at our own improvement and performance improvement. So strengthening our operational effectiveness as a board and an organization, building the capacity to deliver fully on our mandate. This links with what you heard of from Joe on our technology. We're doing a lot of enhancements around technology, our website, our branding, social media. There's other pieces in here. Tom spoke to improving our financial management processes and reporting. That was a big part of getting on top of that. There's still a lot more work to do here, right? We're 20 years old now as an organization. And so we're starting to see, you know, a pivot within ourselves and how we operate. We have a really large board with a lot of dedication and commitment. And so we're just looking to capitalize on all that knowledge. And, you know, we need to look at different opportunities and how we operate together and to be able to really push forward that mandate. So we do have some challenges still ahead of us, but we're working very well together. And I'm really proud to be working with a group of folks who are so dedicated and knowledgeable in this. So I want to thank you all for that. Any questions on that? Did anybody want to add? I'll just open it to the board. Did anybody want to add to that forward-looking agenda? Okay, we have an opportunity after for other business as well. So now we're looking at the approval of our 2021 slate of officers. So we do have a few directors up for re-election, myself being one of them, and also Melanie Windsor, and then directors for election. These are new members that we have: Dragos Papa and Bart Bilmer, Basil Orsini, and Joe Farragon. We've also got our returning directors are listed below. Many of these have been around for quite some time. Some of them just entering that second 2-year term. So at this point, I would believe there is a motion to approve this slate of directors for the 2021 fiscal year. I'm not sure if I can motion it being one of the people on that list. So maybe I'll open it up for someone else to motion that.
I can motion that, Katie. This is Eric.
I'll
Thank you.
second it.
Wonderful. Thanks, Daname. Thank you, Eric. Okay, so that's good. We've got our board of directors. I know in the next while, we are gonna revisit the executive committee itself. So that's usually a 2-year term. Thanks to COVID and pandemic, I'm well into my 3rd year as president. But I do have intentions to step down for the 21-22 year. So our fiscal year is end of June. So I'm aiming for handover, say by around September. So I do open that up for interest with the board. It's really just about keeping it fresh, giving someone else an opportunity to lead this wonderful board of directors that we have, and also to allow me to enter into another role where I can be supporting in other ways. So, you know, big thanks to the EC that we currently have. You guys have been invaluable in teaching me so much along the way, and I've really learned, and I'm not done yet. So I am looking forward to continuing to support us all as a team over the next 9 to 10 months. We're in a really big pivotal, you know, moment right now, I think, as an organization and as a society. But I think we're well aligned to capitalize on that. One other piece I will mention is, and we do need to vote on this separately in a board meeting, but I'm super pleased to announce that Melanie Windsor has accepted a nomination for next vice president role. So we will need to vote on that as a board of directors and a team, but the full exec committee right now has the support of that, and that's just again about cycling that EC role and giving people the opportunity. So I really look forward to working with Melanie in that role. I'll pause there if there's any other business or anything that anybody on the board wants to raise at this point.
Well, and there's no reason you couldn't call an impromptu board meeting right now, because that's who we've got on this call.
We do. So I suppose, well, why don't I?
Exactly.
There are.
I will put a motion for.
There are a few other participants on the call.
I'm not seeing anybody.
You'd have to click the attendee tab.
There's a few. Yeah.
There's a few. But I mean, we still can do it if you wish. And have.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good. I mean, to expand a little bit on that is just Melanie's been on the board for quite a few years. She's bringing a great, slate of experience with her. She's been a participant on many of the committees, and she knows how a lot of things work. And as I said, she's got the EC support on that. So I would like to put a motion forward to approve Melanie as our next vice president. And
I would second it.
Okay, and we'll open that up. If anybody on the board is opposed to that, please put a note in the Q&A in the chat. We'll give a minute for that. Great. I didn't think we'd have any. By all means, I'll open it up as well. Anybody on the board, if you're interested in a role on the EC in the future, let us know. The way it happens right now is very organic. We have opened up in the past to just say, if anybody's interested, let us know. And then months pass and we don't hear any interest, which is why the EC got together in the fall and said, okay, who are the people that we could maybe approach? And there's a lot of things that play into that. I will say right now that there isn't a single person on the current board right now that I don't think is EC material. So I will put that. I think everybody can bring different roles, different strengths to that. But we look at availability and how new people are and how well they know the organization, and because it is very organic, I would say, the way our organization works, and the EC in particular. As I see it, we really are a group of peers, and even being on the EC, it's just a role that's being played, but nothing gets done without the collaborative efforts and proactivity of every member on this board. So as I said, it's a pleasure to be working beside all of you as colleagues and learning from each and every one of you every time we meet and work together. So thank you guys all for that. I've talked enough. It is 1:45. I'm going to open it up if there's any business. At this point, I would also say, let's open it up for Q&A with any of the participants who have joined who are not on the board. We would love to hear from you guys. Anything, even if it's a comment, a question, some feedback. What would you guys like to see this year from PPX? We're here to support you guys.
I have one comment. Congratulations, Madam Vice President. It's being groomed. Yeah, there you go. So this is the applause you get right on Zoom. There's no little applause emoji, but having gone through that, and many of us on the board have gone through that role, ultimately it's to get you to the presidency, of course, to groom you. And I think you knew that anyways, but just so that there was no surprise, but happy to have you on board to do that too, Melanie. And I know I speak on behalf of everybody else there when I say that.
Thank you.
And that's a good point.
Thank you for trusting me. Thank you.
Yeah. Melanie, I wanted to say, I didn't mean to frighten you that, by the way, we've made you VP and I plan to step down in September. I skipped the VP part. They just, it was the exec board approached and said, I'd been there for quite a while and had chaired symposium. So, you're right, Murray, there is a grooming and a path here as well, but it's not necessarily linear. I didn't want to frighten you on that. I'm not going anywhere is the thing, but I'm super happy to be working with you.
Thank goodness
no
it's
pressure.
not the United States. Then if it was the United States, the president and the vice president, there would be no issue.
Yes. Yes, congratulations, Melanie, though.
Yeah, you're here.
It may be possible Is this the first time that there's been a female president and female prime minister, female vice president at the same time? I don't know.
No, no,
Good
Dana
to hear.
May and Dana May, you can talk to
Yeah.
that.
And
Yeah.
Laurie Watson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lori
Yes,
Watson.
that's right. That's right. Perfect.
I thought you were going to say Steve and me.
I wasn't going to say that, Murray.
No, just think it.
I wasn't even going to think it.
Excellent. Well, I don't see any questions. And so I know we have a few minutes. I think if people want to hang on and just say hello to each other, it's been a while. And if you want to, you can, but I will move to adjourn our AGM for this year. I can have a seconder on that.
I will second it.
Great. If you are dropping off, guys, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Please enjoy some time with family and some rest. I do plan to take a little time off work. And I just wish you guys all a good happy holidays. I do think we're looking at a short board touch point within the next week or two to really get going on that 2021 symposium work. So I know we'll see you again, but for those who I don't see.
And Katie, also, if people have ideas about webinars, in the shorter term.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that was my understanding of one of the key reasons to do this is to see if we can stir up some webinars ahead of the symposium so we can get things moving.
If I may, Steve, I think the discussion was that we could fit one in between now and the virtual symposium, but that all things considered, in terms of queuing up that one webinar, that I think this was the discussion at the last committee meeting, that we didn't think we could do more than one before the symposium because, again, I've been away for a while, but my understanding is that we really haven't got going in terms of the symposium itself. So that's quite a challenge.
Yeah, I think I would contend there's possibilities elsewhere. I mean, Ash and I are looking at something that CES would lead that we'd still piggyback on, and that could be an addition to whatever people would do. Again, it was very helpful to be with CES. I should have mentioned that earlier. I think in large part the very large group that we got was in large part due to the CES connection. So if we can do that with other groups, by all means encouraging that if there are ones that we can link into. But I take your point, Tom. I mean, this does take, we were talking about this before everyone came on board. There is a fair bit of effort to get this right, to do this well. So it would, maybe one is a good one on our own for sure to look at.
I hate to say this. I know, or at least Basil, you were on the line. Are you there?
Oh, you're muted, Basil.
Yes, I'm here.
Basil, did you want to say anything about your proposal, how it's going, or maybe not?
Well, I'd rather wait for people to have a look at the submission rather than just, I wouldn't do justice for it in 2 minutes. But I think as Steve, other people have said, Tom, we're going to have a board meeting pretty soon to deal with this matter. And so I prefer if we follow the protocol that Katie had suggested, send out the submission ahead of time to the board members and then have a brief discussion on it.
Yeah, thanks,
Okay,
Basil.
you've been the committee. So you're going to change the proposal that was in committee to go to the board?
Well, actually, I sent you a copy last night.
Oh, my bad.
I'm going to send you some notes today, Basil.
Yeah. But
Basil,
no, so
this is that proposed framework that I saw, right? I'll make sure I read that in the next.
No, it's not, Katie, it's not the framework I'd like to have discussed too, but
yeah.
I have an idea for a webinar specific.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Following Steve's encouragement that we need to, get off our butt and do something.
Yeah.
And so this is in the spirit of getting moving.
The kind way, Steve. here. It's true. It's true, right? It's we were talking about this before noon, and I was trying to say that I'm not. Wasn't it's important, I guess, for us to try to understand what the barriers are that we have. Like, and one of the things I wanted to make sure, there's a lot of new people on here, and I just wanted to make it clear that, like, if you have ideas, and please come up with ideas, that, you know, if people can manage to commit to, you know, a webinar, like, yes, I will do this and I've got some contacts, go for it. And if we raise these at the meetings, and we go for it. You know, the symposium committee traditionally has been like just focused on the symposium. This past year we went virtual. It kind of looked like they were looking at all learning events, and now it's back to, I mean, really, that symposium committee should be just looking at how do we salvage a 2021 virtual committee. And at this point, given all the level of effort and everything involved in it, we want to build on the speakers that we and the theme that we had already created. It's there. You know, we don't need to recreate that whale, but how do we, likely, instead of a full symposium, it'll be like a much smaller one. But so how do we find a few concurrent speakers and a few main ones and go through all that effort? Thank you, Steve, for reminding me that even though you have the speakers and the platform and Willow and everything supporting, there's a lot of work to get people practiced on it and make sure that the flow is there with multiple presenters and etc. So I think that'll be a really big piece for symposium committee, and they should just aim for, you know, a 50% type of thing, like aim smaller, but something that's still going to add value and capitalize on the theme and the speakers that we have. Separately, we should be putting out some webinars, ideally monthly would be great. So anybody has an idea, go for it. If you know, like, so you just bring that forward. I mean, I can almost guarantee the board's not going to say no. At this point, we're just like, we need to have some of those commitments. And maybe it's easier for people to say, I can do one webinar in 1 month in an area that I'm familiar with or a speaker that I know, and it's easier to already facilitate that. If we keep finding ourselves not, things aren't happening and things aren't moving, I suggest we need to take a closer look at why that's happening. I can speak for myself to say that I have had, you know, I don't have capacity beyond right now the president's duties and role. I don't have the capacity to lead a webinar. I would definitely have a capacity to champion one of the concurrent sessions at the symposium. I could do that. But I personally am not in a position to be able to do that. But we need to look at, you know, across the board, where's everybody else at? If we find that everyone's just saying, I don't have the time or I don't have that, you know, availability for that effort, then we need to be realistic about that and look at a different model for delivery. Like, what do we need to help push some of these things? Because we're full of ideas, and we have Willow doing a great job on the tech stuff. I mean, I went to Sarah's the virtual symposium they put on a couple weeks ago. It was great. It was great. But there's so much work behind that still, even just to make that happen. But I will say the platform's there, the technology is there, Willow is learning and they're doing a good job. We have a plethora of ideas between all of us. So it's how do we bridge, like, making it happen? And that's where I reach out to you guys to say, please let me know your thoughts and ideas. And if you have ones to say, I'm willing to put my hand up and make something happen, a webinar, go for it. You will have an absolute green light and lots of support from all of us on that. And if we find we're still struggling to get that ramped up, let's look at what we can do as a team to make that happen. We have funds, and there's other ways we could look at that.
And as our new VP can attest, you know, when we did the COP for science, it just built momentum for the symposium. I mean, that was true in the physical environment. And the reason we got 250 people signed up, and, you know, was a 3-year process, you know, that it builds momentum. So you're not stealing thunder from the event to do something now. It should build, you know, so
It
highly
allows them to
encouraged.
see progress.
Exactly.
that was my little rah-rah speech, but honestly, I mean it. I've said this a couple times here. I look at all these lovely faces in front of me. It's an absolute honor to be able to work with such a broad variety of backgrounds and experiences. And you know, I am definitely a better person and employee at OSFI for having worked with you guys and learning what I've learned here. This has been, you know, I 3 weeks, I've been at OSFI for 12 years, and 3 weeks ago, I finally won a competition for a director position here. And I honestly, in the interview process and in the fit interview, PPX came up both times, because I said, without the ability to learn all that strategic view of these disciplines and to be able to work with so many wonderful, experienced, mature people in the field, like that's really given me a different edge that I think allowed me in my own organization to bring my own stuff up to a level that has landed me finally a promotion. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I mean it. It was a PPX came up in these interviews because I was like, these guys have taught me so much and where I'm at today. So thank you guys all for that. I owe a little bit of my promotion to all of you, I think.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks, Tom.
And,
I'm happy with director. I don't need to go anywhere else.
And I've said this many times to many people, and that is you get back as much as you give in, right? When you volunteer at things like this, whether it's learning or satisfaction or connection or networking, whatever it is. So I know exactly where you're coming from there, Katie, because I have felt that same thing, and that I've benefited so much from my participation over the decade or whatever it is. Even though I know I've contributed a lot, I know I've received a lot back. So that's great. Thanks.
Thank you.
But we would take a drink if you're buying us one. You know.
LCBO gift certificates to everybody.
One of the
Hey,
drink stubs, eh?
when we can open this up next spring, absolutely. There will be drinks purchased for whoever wants them and can make it out. I promise that. That's easy. Anyway, bye Mel.
Madam
Good
Vice
to see all
President,
you guys.
goodbye.
Thanks.
Bye bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I got a quick one too. Bye
See you
now.
next time.
Good
Bye-bye.
job, Katie.